You need to have a different mindset. You need to say, hey, we can do things differently. We are not here just to teach children, we're here to help them learn.
As a parent, I'm very impressed with it because I've seen what it's done for my son. My son is reading about 4 years ahead of himself. And of course, that's a lot of it has to do with what he's been exposed to here at Goldblatt.
Teacher never has to say, Johnny, stop doing that, pay attention. I've never seen that done. Attention is riveted.
We're always learning something, and if we set up from an early age this pattern of questioning things, of looking for patterns, of reading and discussing with others, I think we're preparing the kids for life, and that's what we hope education does, makes us learners for life.
In 1982, Chicago philosopher and educator Mortimer Adler and his colleagues developed a new program of teaching and learning. It's felt the program can help improve many of the problems that face the public schools in Chicago today, as proven by the 5 pilot schools where the program has been in effect since 1984. The new program's methods are simple: intensive classroom discussions, followed by personalized coaching sessions to both encourage the child to learn and make the learning process fun.
Number one is the children should enjoy school. When the children come home and complain about school, that it's dull, it's irksome, the work is unpleasant, the teachers are not interesting, when they're bored, when their minds are turned off, you've got a bad school. If every child took delight in going to school, enjoyed the day at school, didn't want to be an absentee, didn't want to be a dropout, you know you had a good school. We all want to avoid drudgery. We all want to avoid boredom. We all want to avoid unrewarding toil. If the child regards what goes on in school as unrewarding toil, sheer drudgery, and boredom, you've got a bad school. And that's one mark. Secondly, I'd say the teachers in the school should be learning along with the children. And the third thing I think I'd say is that every school to be good must have a good principal. And the principal should be the leader of that educational enterprise. He should be engaged in leading his teachers into the process of reform. So that the selection of a good principal is of the first importance. The principal is dedicated to the right kind of learning, and the joy of learning will change the character of the school.
The key to Mr. Adler's program is the seminar.
All that a seminar means is a group of children who've read a book, sitting around a table, with the teacher sitting at the table with them, asking them questions, and they're discussing the meaning of the book. In the course of that process, their misreading of it, their failure to observe certain things, their misinterpretation of the text comes out, an argument goes on, and their minds are engaged in the process of reading for the first time. Now, that doesn't happen quickly. I would say that seminars would have to start in kindergarten, when the kindergarten teacher sits the little tots on the floor, tells them a story, then asks them questions about it. And right from this first grade to the 12th, 12 years, at least 12 years, are required to learn how to read well.
The seminar class is arranged differently. The teacher sits with the students in a circle, encouraging discussion. Teacher Paula Walker-Nevels is steering her students in a discussion of Langston Hughes. Thank you, ma'am.
She took him home with her. She fed him. She gave him the money for the shoes. Why, after he had tried to snatch her purse, would she do all of this for him?
Maybe she did feel sorry for him because all this stuff that he was telling her, that he didn't have anybody home to wash his face, or he didn't have anybody home to take care of him. And he didn't say how old he was in the story, so I don't know if he was. He said how old he was?
Yeah, they said he was 14 or 15.
Well, why don't we look?
It's the story that said how old he was.
We encourage the students to ask questions of each other. It's not just the teacher's role there is not just as teacher and the all-knowing person. The teacher is the facilitator of the discussion, but the teacher does not always have the right answer. The students have the answers like anyone else has the answers. And in the Socratic seminar, the teacher just makes sure that the discussion flows along, but she does not really impart her own ideas. The ideas that come out of a Socratic seminar discussion are the ideas that the students have themselves based upon their understanding of the text.
So what really counts in a school is that the minds of the children be actively engaged and that they're engaged in thinking actively. I think that no genuine learning occurs without thinking. And where what goes on in school does not require the child to think or use the child's mind, nothing else matters. The exercise in reading won't work unless the book is difficult, unless it requires the child to struggle to understand it. You know, you couldn't get a child to chin the bar if the bar is too low. You can't get the child to chin the bar is too high. It has to be the right height over his head so he can reach up and pull down. Well, a book must be the same way. It must not be so far over your head you can't reach it. It mustn't be so far down you don't have to do it, make an effort to understand it, but just high enough over your head so you can reach it and exercise the pull.
As you read a book and you read it again and you discuss it with other people, you hear what other people have to say, what everyone sort of thinks about something, and then maybe you have a way of looking at that situation a little bit differently, thinking about things that you never would have thought before. And even though we begin with literature and exposing children to real books and to literature, it basically is a philosophical way of doing any subject matter. If you're going to do science and math, why should children just read about science and math? Why shouldn't they experiment? That is just like having a seminar in literature.
The important thing here is not to lecture at the students. Here, the teacher guides the class into its own discovery of learning.
Well, I don't know. I'm not sure what you need to do. You'll have to tell me. If you've got here 2 of these.
Mostly what goes on now in most of our schools is teachers talking at students, students taking notes, memorizing what is told them by teachers or what they find in textbooks. And if they're conscientious students, then boning up and passing examinations.
They have to take exams and pass them.
But if they do that, they'll get through school, but they won't be educated. In fact, an unfortunate thing is even the very best students get through school well with A's, but they're not educated because their minds, their memories have been stuffed for the time being. Stuffed memories don't last very long. Children who, with their memories stuffed and boned up for examinations, passed the examinations with good grades, forget what they've passed the examinations on shortly after the examinations are over.
Are we going to be just lecturers in front of kids, or are we going to be active teachers where children are engaged in active learning, whether it be through the seminars or through experimentation in science and math, or whether actually doing actual art instead of just talking about art, actually painting and experiencing colors and textures, or by singing and actually being part of this thing we call music or playing instruments. You go beyond talking about a subject and actually having the children doing it, engaging in it.
What I do is I try to promote discussion. I try to open up inquiring minds, and I try to inspire my children and my students with a love of learning and wanting to know things and wanting to have answers to questions, issues, promote higher level thinking skills, all of those things.
I think it changes the role of the teacher. The teacher is not giving out truths, is more of a facilitator, the one who provides for the environment and hopefully asks the right questions and has the kids answer the questions instead of providing the answers. And that way it's the child's own knowledge, and once it's his, it's his.
The crucial follow-up to the seminar is the process of coaching, and it's not unlike the coaching that occurs on the football field or basketball court.
Skating, or playing tennis, or swimming, or running, or jumping, are all formed as habits. And driving an automobile, cooking, sewing, shop work, all these are skills, all these bodily and mental skills are habits. And habits can only be formed, not by listening to lectures or reading textbooks, but by having a coach. The word coach, which you use for the person who disciplines, trains skills in the gymnasium or on the playing field, is the same meaning of coach as in the classroom, where you have to be coached to write well, coached to read well, coached to listen well, coached to speak well, where the coach says, don't do it that way. That's wrong. You have your foot in the wrong place. You're not following the ball. You're not doing this. Don't do that, do this, over and over again, until the coach elicits from the trainee a skilled, smooth, good performance.
Now, coaching is different from teaching at, talking at.
Coaching is different from lecturing.
Yes.
The ordinary teacher is a lecturer. The ordinary teacher lays it out, tells the students what's what, and the students write it down, notes, memorize it, pass it back in examination, get through school. But they don't have any skills, because skills can't be taught that way. Unless we introduce coaching into our schools, we will not be able, I think, to turn out skilled minds.
These methods of teaching, the seminar class and the follow-up of coaching, inspire and excite not only the students, but the teachers.
Teaching was exciting before, but now it's just thrilling. It's thrilling to come to work. I love my job. I love what happens here at the school because of what the children do.
Teachers become very excited to see how the children react. And not only do they then become much more motivated to try it again because they see that the children are reacting to this so very positively, but they also feel less frustration because the children are actually accomplishing what they set out to do. Many times we find teachers that are very frustrated because they're there trying to do their job, but the children do not seem to follow them. Well, you know, you have to stop at some point and say, what am I doing wrong? What are we doing that is not helping the children learn? And through this process, the teachers become very excited. They also become learners themselves, because part of the process is, if we want the children to think, we have to model thinking. And if we want the children to value books, then they have to see us read books. And if we want to have them value discussion and thought and argument with positions and opinions, then we have to do the same. And in a school, that should be an active center for that to be happening.
I was very excited about the program when I started it. In fact, I was so excited, I transferred my son to the school because I wanted him to have that advantage to be exposed to the greatest thinkers and greatest minds of all times. I mean, my gosh, most of the readings that our kids do at Goldblatt, I didn't do until I got to high school or college. And our children here have a chance, a fantastic opportunity to have that exposure at such a young age.
The renewed interest in educating children with the seminar method spreads throughout the entire school community.
Most of us are very pleased with the program. That's why we're so involved in the school.
Unless the parents themselves are actively engaged in what's going on in the school can't succeed. I don't think schools can succeed without the help of the home. That is, the best schools I know about in this country are schools where the parents give a great deal of time to the school where they can. Some of them sometimes unavoidable. But even when they can't give their time to the school by coming to the school and seeing what's going on, they must, I think, give their children the sense that they're interested in what's happening, that they're following what's happening, so the child doesn't think there's a real rift or chasm between the school, here's school and here's home, never the twain shall meet. The two should converge, and the parents should be actively engaged in seeing the child through school, because the parents' influence is I think, equal to the importance of a good teacher, influence of a good teacher.
Supporters of the seminar process are convinced that many of the problems that plague Chicago's public schools could be alleviated, if not solved, by the new program.
If we use this kind of approach from the very beginning, we wouldn't have all the remedial cases that we have, and we wouldn't have as many kids dropping out because they wouldn't become as frustrated as they do when they get all the formulas mixed up, and therefore, as soon as they can, they drop out because they're not having very good experiences in school. It's just one failure after the other. And if you're perceiving yourself as a failure continually, of course, you're not going to hang around in an environment which just fosters more of the same feeling.
Parents and teachers alike have great hopes and expectations for the students of the seminar program. When these students graduate and go on to high school, and some then to college, maybe they'll take something extra with them.
They're leaving with not only a good education, which they would not have received anywhere else, but they're leaving with confidence. They're leaving with self-esteem, which many of them don't have when they come here. They're leaving with a pride in their culture. Hopefully he's leaving with a desire to excel and come back and share what he gets out of life with the community, which is also something that we try to instill in our children too. A service to others.
Because that's the message we're giving from first grade on, is that you do have your feelings, your thoughts, your ideas. They are important and they should be expressed. And for those reasons, we are making more independent people.
I've seen my students become more vocal. I've seen my students become more receptive to ideas. I've seen my students become more understanding of each other. The interplay between students in a discussion is done very well in a Socratic seminar, because our students know how to disagree without being disagreeable. Our students learn how to talk to one another. They learn how to support their ideas from the text. They know how to relate their ideas and to make associations and relationships. And I think it's helped my teaching in that it's made my students more receptive when they come into a regular classroom.
I just see that our kids they challenge what you say, they ask questions, they just don't take things for granted. And I think that's something that we have to definitely instill in our children. And I think that in our society, kids are taught, or, I think that, to take for granted that whatever the teacher says is okay. And I think that it's good that they start questioning and they want to know why. I think it's very positive. And I think that in return also develops them and moves them ahead.
I think in the end it will result in adults who question more, who are more reflective, because they've not just been spoon-fed information. So, I think if all kids went through this kind of process, we'd have a lot more literate adults, and we'd have a lot more reflective people, and therefore a better society.
All the children have the same destiny. They're all going to have to earn a living. They're all enfranchised now as citizens, and they all have lives to live. Therefore, they should be given equal educational opportunity. All the children in the city, not just the college-bound, but those who are going through high school and leaving school at high school, that's as far as they're going to go, should have exactly the same quality of schooling. At the present moment, we are not giving all the children of the city the same quality of the schooling. We're giving them only the same quantity, the same 12 years, days, months, and years of schooling. But what happens in the schools is not the same for all. And the most radical thing about, I think, the reform of education in Chicago is to see that the schools serve all the children exactly the same way, with the same high quality of schooling.
As long as there are teachers and there are parents who have the desire for them to learn, and as long as we instill that motivation in them. So I think it is. I think it's a concept, a school or model that can be used all over the country. And I think if it were that we would see a lot of happier children, I think that we certainly would see a lot of more motivated children. And I think that we would see a lot of, we wouldn't have to talk about how Japan and Europe and everywhere else is so far ahead of the United States, because they'd be trying to catch up with us. I truly believe that.
It is the understanding of information, which is knowledge. Mere information you can find in textbooks or in reference books, and memorizing mere information is soon lost anyway. But what is understood is seldom lost. You can't forget what you understand. And so the more understanding that occurs in classrooms, the more that happens as a result of teachers asking questions and students being encouraged to ask questions and discussion taking place, the more actively the child's mind will be engaged and the more pleasurable schooling will be. I think that good schools should serve the children in three ways. You should prepare them to earn a living by holding good jobs, getting and holding good jobs. You should prepare them to be good, actively good citizens of the Republic. And most important of all, is to prepare them, help them to lead decently good human lives.